So just to reiterate, please definitely, if you have any questions, feel free to ask on the chat that I believe Jessica went over. The other SEs that were on the call are going to be moderating that while I go through this. So I will take questions at the end just so we can get through the content. But if you have questions while I'm presenting, please go ahead and put that in the Q&A section of this platform. So, all right, let's go ahead and get started. Um, yeah, Tableau. I actually was hired by Tableau before we got acquired by Salesforce back in 2019. And before I joined the company, I was doing analytics for the Walt Disney Company and Universal Studios, and both of those experiences involved me using Tableau and also using Tableau as an end user as well, so like a viewer. And then there were other instances where I was using Tableau Prep to clean my data and things like that. And so Tableau is known as a BI, business intelligence visualization platform. Okay. So now we are integrated with Salesforce. And so there's so much more exciting things that we have now and more things that are coming in the future, including AI, which is really great. But for today's session, we're going to go over some of the basics of Tableau. All right. What I wanted to kick off with is Tableau Public. So Tableau Public is one of my favorite things to go over. I go over this with a lot of my own customers because Tableau Public is free. It is think of it like the YouTube of Tableau dashboards. So there are about 8 million Tableau dashboards that exist on Tableau Public. So what is Tableau Public? Tableau Public is a place where people from all over the world can come in and build their dashboards and share them with the world, right? So we have a Tableau Public team at this company, and one of their many jobs is to maintain Tableau Public, but also engage with the community. So you can see people's recent activities. So, for example, I'm following this Tableau influencer, Andy. So he uploaded a few dashboards that I can subscribe to or have in my recent activity. So I can click into this, for example, and basically interact with it and also get inspiration. So I know that part of your project for those on the phone is going to be building your own Tableau dashboard. And some of you guys might wonder, okay, where do I start? Where do I get inspiration for design and things like that? That's why we're going over Tableau Public first. So with this, you can interact with the dashboards, right? You can click around and things like that. So this one has multiple different pages here that I can look at. Um, and then another great thing is a lot of these dashboards that you see on Tableau Public will let you download the dashboard. So the great thing about, say you really like this dashboard and you want to plug in your own data or maybe make some tweaks for it to be customized to what you want to deliver, you don't have to start from scratch. You can actually download a dashboard and kind of take ideas from different dashboards of that and make it your own. So Tableau Public is just a great resource. It's probably one of my most favorite resources for the Tableau community, and the Tableau community is pretty massive compared to other companies out there that are in the same space as Tableau. All right. Um, Another thing that I want to say really quick before I go into the actual demo is you can actually, everybody on this call can make their own Tableau Public profile. So this is me. I made this years ago, and this is where I published some of my dashboards that I was just making for fun. And so this is a great way to kind of showcase like the work that you do, and also kind of like a portfolio. So if you're ever in the job market where you have to know Tableau and things like that, most of the time they will ask you for your Tableau public profile, right? So you're going to see, you can search people, right? You can search people here and look at the work that they've done. I'm following a few people as well. So I won't spend too much time on Tableau public because I can go on all day about this, but the gist of why I'm showing you this is for you guys to have a place where you can get inspiration and really get some really cool ideas. And then you can use this search button here and say you want like sports, right? You can use it as a search engine. So we get 10,000 plus results from that. So then you can see, okay, I really like this. I want to download it and kind of backwards engineer it. You can do that. So again, just great resource, I think, for you guys with the project that you have underway. Okay. Are there any questions? I'll take some right now. Are there any questions about Tableau Public before I go into the actual demo? I think we'll have time. Okay. I'll take that as a no. Alrighty. So let's go ahead and get started. So depending on time, I don't think we will be going over Tableau prep. I think that might be reviewed in the next session. But one thing, what we're going to be going over today is Tableau desktop. So just to take a step back for a second, so with Tableau, you can have Tableau prep, which is where you can clean and transform your data. So if your data is really messy and you need to clean and prep it before you actually do the analysis of it, that's where Tableau prep comes into play. And then the tool, the flagship product is Tableau Desktop. So that's where we are going to connect to our different data sources and create visualizations and then finally make the dashboard. So this is really, I would say, the main product that you're going to be living in to connect to your data and do analytics and visualizations and actually make your final dashboard. Okay, so this is kind of the meat and the heart of Tableau. Okay, so when you open up Tableau Desktop on the left-hand side, you're going to see the different ways that you can connect to your data. So you can connect to Excel files, text files, things like that. You can also connect to different servers. So we have, of course, Salesforce, SQL, a huge slew of data sources that you can connect to. And this is always growing. So this is a really simple way to connect to data and everything like that. So wherever you're coming from, most likely we can connect to it, or there's some kind of way that you can connect to your data with Tableau. So, but for demo purposes, we're going to actually use an Excel file. Oh, sorry, was there a question? I heard some noise. Sorry. No, okay. So just for demo purposes, we're going to go ahead and just connect to Superstore data, which is basically just an Excel file. And within this Excel file, we have multiple tables or multiple tabs, if you will. And so this is just when you're looking at this, you're seeing kind of what we call the relationship model. So that's really just creating relationships between tables. So if during your project you have to create relationships or joins, you can do that all within Tableau itself, Tableau Desktop. And then you're going to be able to kind of make those relationships. You can click in, and if you needed to do like a join or an outer join and things like that, this is where you can do that. Of course, if you just have one table, then obviously you won't have to do any of this. It would just be like just one table, right? But this is just different possibilities that you have to relate and connect your tables together with your data. Okay. A lot of other things that we can do here. I won't spend too much time on this section, but other things that you can do is, say, for example, you need to change like order date from, date to number or number decimal. You can do that here. I'm going to leave it as date because this is obviously a date column. So you can make quick changes here as well. You can do, you can split rows as well. So you notice that these numbers here are all kind of crunched together in kind of like a string format. You can actually split it. So if I click that button right here, then it can split off where you want it to split off and make a brand new column. So say, for example, it said like US dash Dallas dash Texas, right? And say you wanted those three things in three separate columns, that's a use case for you to use the split. So you can use a custom split and you can tell Tableau how you want that to be done. All right. Okay. So let's go ahead and go to our sheet 1. And if I'm going to, just let me know. But now when we connect it to our data, now the next step is to actually start building, which is the fun part. Okay. To my data on the left-hand side, you're going to see all of the different columns that are existing in that file that we're connected to. So we have customer name, we have location, all of these things we have, and we can see on the left-hand side, so we can start kind of dragging and dropping, right? So let's go ahead and get started and have some fun with this. So one personal thing that I love about Tableau is its ability to make really robust maps. Mapping is something that's one of the many strong suits of Tableau. So before Tableau, people would have to spend time converting cities and locations into latitude and longitude codes. And a lot of the time, there wasn't even a software that could do that on the fly for people. But you don't have to do that with Tableau. Tableau is able to recognize that certain columns have to do with location, and it's able to map it pretty easily. So, for example, part of this data set has a state in it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to double click on state. And in 2 seconds, I have a map, right? So this data set is only focusing on US data. The thing about Tableau as well is it can plot maps from data sets around the world, right? So if this data set that we're using today had like Europe areas or areas in South America, it would be able to map that, right? But the reason why we're only seeing the US right now is because this data set only has US data. Okay. So now we have our map, right? It's already done for us. All I had to do is double click and it created those points for us. So we have data points like Idaho, Oregon, Montana, all that jazz. And so if I wanted to look at how we're doing, say, for example, in sales across this map. So what I'm going to do is I can grab sales and I can drop it over color. Okay. So when I grab that pill and I dropped it over color, what's happening is that now I'm telling Tableau to color code the map according to the sum of sales. So we see that this gradient was automatically created for us. So what this is telling me is that the darker the state is, the higher it is in sales. So off the bat, we know that California has the highest sales. Why? Because based on this gradient, it's telling me that the darker the state is, the higher it is in sales, right? So say if I was a business analyst, right, and I needed to understand like which states are we struggling in sales, for example, then I can see, okay, these states right here, because the sales are only around 1,000, but California is doing really well. So that might be something that maybe we want to investigate. Okay. So another thing with mapping as well is if you wanted to add, say, a background. So like if you wanted to make it dark, like a dark theme map, I can do that. I can have different things here. So if I wanted to do like kind of this this kind of look where you can see the terrain. You can change that as well. Really, the sky's the limit with maps. It's pretty cool. Another thing too is you can actually edit the colors. So say you don't really like what's going on with the color, you can come in here and you can choose your own. So then you can choose something like, say, red, green, diverging, and I can select OK. And then it's going to change. So then what's happening now is the greener the state is, the higher it is in sales, right? So you can customize that very easily. But actually I'm going to, let's say if we want to go back to green, or just choose green for just this example. Okay. So that can all be customized right there. All right. So then I can go in here and I can call this map, and just leave it like that for now. There's a lot more that we can do, and I'll keep showing you different things that you can do. But for now, let's just leave it like this, and we'll probably come back to it a little bit later. So now I'm going to create another sheet, and say we want to, look at information over time. So we know that this is a time field because we have this little date picture right here. So I'm going to grab order date columns, and say we want to look at something over time. So say I'm grabbing the quantity pill. So here we're seeing the quantitative and qualitative columns. So that's why you see in these pills, you see these number symbols, right? That has to do with obviously quantitative values, right? So I'm going to bring my order date to this pill, and then I'm going to have sum of quantity here. The cool thing as well is with dates like this in this particular data set, Tableau is able to recognize and create a hierarchy for me. So let me show you kind of the drill down that we can have here. So right now, we are looking at quantity over time by year, right? But I can actually drill in. So I can go from year to quarter, month, and day, even the hour. We don't see hour here because the data set does not have by the hour. But if you have that in your data set, it would be able to drill down to that. Okay. So now we're looking at the information all the way from a day perspective. Okay. So say, for example, I don't want to look at it by quarter. So I'm going to grab that pill and take it out, and say I don't want to look at it by day. I just want to look at it by year and month. So now I have a nice view of kind of what's going on with our sum of quantity over time, by year and by month. Okay. So here I can change the color. So if I wanted to go in here and change the lines to orange or red or something like that, or if I wanted to make it a little bit more fancy and have the kind of the dots here so it's more prominent to the person that's looking at that, then you can do that as well. Okay. So if I go to the analytics pane, I can actually grab, say if I wanted to look at the average over time, so I can grab this average line and I can drop it so I can see, okay, what is the average quantity over this whole entire time. I can also grab this and do it by pane. So notice that the first average is taking the average of the entire kind of data set that we're looking on our screen. But when you do by pane, it's taking the average per year. So you see that it's different, right? So we see that the average has changed and has been increasing as we're looking year to year. Okay. So these things are out of the box, right? At this point, we already made 2 visualizations, 2 sheets, without having to do any code or any calculation or anything like that, right? So it's extremely intuitive. Tableau is very easy to use. That's why a lot of people love it. And so you can do a lot of things with Tableau, as you'll probably see looking at Tableau Public. and it's very easy to use, like I said before. Okay. So we'll leave that as that. But another thing I do want to point out, there's so much to go over, but I'm going to try to continue to give you guys the basics. So say, for example, right now we're looking at sum of quantity. If I wanted to change that into like average or count distinct, I can quickly change that, right? So again, I didn't have to make a calculation. This is just something quick that I can do to change that value. And then I can completely change how we're looking at this particular data here. Okay. So for now, let me just go ahead and name this over time. All right, so now we're done with that sheet. Let's go ahead and make a third sheet right now. So let's say, for example, I wanted to look at products. So I'm going to drag and drop products. And let's say we want to look at maybe the profit. Oh, so there are different ways you can do this. So notice that you can drag and drop, you can double click and things like that. So, you can have it in this way, or you could grab it and just put it on the rows column. And then you can have this type of view. So again, we can come in here and change the colors and things like that. We can add borders to these bars as well. Another thing that I want to show you guys is this show me pane right here. So with show me, we can play around with different visualizations that we can do based on the pills that we're putting on our screen. So say if I wanted like a pie chart, I can quickly click on that. I can do a highlight table, right? I can do a tree map. So in this way, I can see, okay, the biggest box here is obviously going to be technology because it has the highest profit. So there are different ways that you can look at your data. So this one is packed bubbles here. So you can really have fun with it. And show me is meant to kind of guide the end user of visualizations that it's recommending you to use. But for now, let's go ahead and just keep our bar chart right here. If I wanted to flip it over, I can click this button and I can have it back kind of turned on its side again. Okay. Let's see. Another thing I can do as well is say you want like charts overlapping. So let me show you how to do that. So if I want to grab something like quantity, oops, and put that next to profit, now we see two charts, right? Here, and I'm going to try to go slow because I know this is a lot, but so the first one is profit. So we see profit here, right? So I can go in this and I can change the color, say for example, like green. So then now I'm kind of in this way, I'm isolating what I'm doing to the chart, right? So notice when I change it to green, it's not changing everything to green. It's just changing the profit chart to green. Okay. Now let's go over the quantity. So quantity is this one right here, right? So I can actually change this. Instead of a bar, maybe I want like a line, right? Or I could do circle. Okay. And then I can change that color. Let's just pick red. We'll do Christmas colors today. So we can have it like that. But how do we actually overlap these two? Okay, so what you do is you're going to right click on quantity. You're going to select dual axis. And now it's overlapping, right? There's changes that we need to make. So we need to go back to profit and change it back to the bar that we had. And it's went back to the default color. So these are the default Tableau colors. So we can go back and we can change those colors. We can edit the colors and things like that, but we can leave it as it is, right? So that's really how you would do that. You can also synchronize the axes as well. So, you can do that also, but that's basically how you would be able to put charts kind of overlapping each other. So whatever makes sense and whatever will make sense to the end user, that's what I always recommend to my customers, because we don't want to throw multiple colors at them, right? We want to make sure that it's visually appealing. We want to make sure that it tells a story and all of those things, which we'll be going over in later sessions. So I'll share a story. One thing, when I first got my hands in Tableau, I had all of the colors that you can imagine on my dashboard. But the thing that I had to realize is that you don't have to do that, right? It's really about what story do you want to tell, and what do you want to actually emphasize versus de-emphasize, right? So that's going to be important as part of this journey as you're building out your visualizations and things like that. Okay. So I'll just name this like bar chart. Alrighty. So one thing that I wanted to show you, it's actually a really cool trick. Let's go back to map, for example. And we notice as I'm hovering over these different locations, you notice that white box that's coming up that says country, region, state, sales. That is called the tooltip. So the tooltip you can customize. So when I select tooltip, I can highlight these items and I can change the size. I can change the font. I can go ahead and select something like this right here and make it bold, right? I'm just showing you guys what you can do here. You can change the color, right? So I'm going to show you what happens when I do that. So now look at the tooltip. You see how it changed? So you can do so many things with Tableau. You can definitely do a lot of things with tooltip. You can customize it to make it how you want. You can insert different columns here as well. One thing that I do want to show that's a cool trick, very, very easy, is I can actually insert another sheet into this tooltip. So remember the quantity, or let's actually do the bar chart. So remember the bar chart that we made. So I'm going to select that. Okay. And we see the size. We can edit that, right? So if I wanted to play around with it and make it a little bit bigger, and I select OK. And now we see, you notice what's happening. So now we have that sheet that we made, the third sheet, and now it's in a way kind of embedded into the tooltip. So notice that the bar is changing as I'm hovering over each state, right? Why is that happening? Because as I'm hovering over, say, Idaho, it's basically telling Tableau, like, okay, she's hovering over Idaho, so we're going to filter the bar chart to just Idaho. So that's why when we're hovering over each state, we're not seeing the same bar chart, which is what we want. We want the bar chart to be relevant to what we're actually selecting. Okay. So you can do that with anything. You don't just have to do that with maps. That's going to be the same thing for this. So if I wanted to edit the tooltip here and insert like a sheet like I did on the map, you can do that here as well very, very easily. Okay. So that's just a really quick trick of the tooltip, and you can change the sizes and how that looks and things like that. Okay. How am I doing on time? Let's see how much time.
We are good. We have another about 30 minutes.
30 minutes. Okay, great. So, again, there's a lot more that we can go over. But one thing I also want to mention is, say you do need to create some kind of calculated field here. I'll show you how to do that. So what I did is I went next to the search bar and I just selected this caret here. And then I can create my own calculation. So if I wanted to write out like a KPI calculation, I can do that here and create a new column and drag that on the screen as well. So here, the great thing also about Tableau is that, for example, like something like ABS or and, right? Notice what's happening on the right hand side. So it's telling us what it's going to return, and it's also going to give us like an example write out. So the great thing about this is, instead of you having to Google, like, okay, what does this mean? Or how do I actually write out that calculation? Tableau can help you just within this platform to kind of understand what it can do for you in terms of calculation. So if I know that I am going to do some kind of like number calculation or aggregation, I can filter down to that, and I can use these as well. So that's how you would do a calculation if that's something that you would need to bring into your visualization. Okay. Alrighty. So the next thing that I want to go over is, let's go ahead and talk about creating the final dashboard. So what is a dashboard? A dashboard is obviously a visual representation of data. So with the dashboard, we're going to actually combine all of the different sheets that we created before. Okay. Just for time's sake, it's not going to look super clean and super pretty, but I'm just going to show you kind of how you bring the dashboard together in a really quick amount of time. So I can grab map and I can drop it. Say I want to take this away. Okay. And then say I want this down here and this over here. You can have this as floating, right? And I can drag it around and have it in a certain location. So you can use the floating as well and kind of decide where you actually want to have your kind of key, if you will, right? So there's so many different things that you can do. So now I'm going to actually take this out for now. Okay, and now I have all of my different all of my different sheets here. So say, for example, I wanted this to be the main filter for my entire dashboard. So if I select this and I select this button, use as filter, what's going to happen is, as I'm selecting things on this chart and interacting with it, everything around this sheet is going to filter down. Why? Because I am basically telling Tableau to use this as a filter, right? So if I take this off and I do it, say, with maps, the map instead, then I'm basically telling Tableau, okay, as I'm interacting with the map, use this as the filter point for the rest of my dashboard. Okay. So that's kind of what that entails. One thing that I do want to go over, because this is going to be something that you're probably going to use. Let me see. So if I wanted to do, say I wanted to have order date as a filter, so I'm going to grab order date and drop it over filters. I can select a multitude of things. So I am going to select, just for this example, range of dates. Okay. Now I'm going to right click and show filter. So now I have this kind of filter here, so I can actually toggle it and cut down what I want to see, right? So notice what I'm doing. I'm cutting down, and I just want to look at, these dates right here, right? I can customize the look and feel of this. So if I wanted to have relative dates or start dates or things like that, I can do that as well. Okay. Another example too, if I go back to map, so let's say, for example, I want state to be the filter. So I can go ahead and right click, show the filter. So now I can actually deselect some of those states, but I can clean this up because I don't really like the way that that looks. I can do a multiple value drop down. So look, now it's cleaner, right? So I can just use this as a drop down because otherwise it's going to show all of this, and that can take up a lot of room in my dashboard, right? So that's one thing that I wanted to show. This is probably something that you're definitely going to use when you're creating your dashboard because um, most likely when you have a dashboard, you're probably going to have some kind of, I would imagine, like a filter on the top for people to filter down to the data that they need and things like that. So that's how you would make the filter, and you can bring that into the dashboard as well. Okay. So, um, and then let's see what else we can go over. So, uh, looking at the objects right here. So if you wanted to put in like a web page link, right? So if drag and drop a web page, just for example, I can insert a web link, right? So if you wanted to have a button that takes somebody's to a certain website or something like that, that's where this would come into play. Okay. So there's a lot of things that you can put onto your dashboard. Um, so then let's go ahead and go to dashboard. So we can do a lot of different shading here. So you could do different colors here. You can change the fonts. So that's where you would do it. You would go to format, click on dashboard, and you can go ahead and play around with that. Um, we can get really, really granular into this. So if I wanted to take away these lines, you can do that as well with Tableau. You can really kind of clean it up the way that you would like it to look. Another thing too, and this may or may not be relevant for you guys, but a cool thing about Tableau is you can actually, there's a lot of people that use Tableau on their phone, right? They need to look at those visualizations on the go. They need to look at their mobile device to look at that. So when you click on phone, if there's somebody in the audience that, you know, would like to make a dashboard, but also make it mobile friendly for the competition, then this is where you would do that. So then you can go in here and you can basically change the look and feel of the experience that somebody would have on the phone. So maybe I don't want a map for the phone. Maybe I want to take this out and just have the bar chart and a different title. I can do that. So it's really cool, and it's really, really easy to use to kind of make your own, put your own spin on how the experience would be on a mobile device. Okay. Alrighty. So, Jessica, quick question for you. Will they have access to like Tableau Cloud, or is it just going to be desktop?
So all the students should receive directions on to get Tableau desktop. If you are not able to use desktop due to your technical requirements, then if you talk to your professor or if you contact Crossroads Classic, we will have alternative way. So you can, we'll give you an alternative way. So it'll probably be cloud.
Okay. Okay. Perfect. Perfect. Um, okay, cool. So yeah, if you guys get cloud, that's great. You don't necessarily, if you don't have access to it, that's totally fine. So right now I'm on, of course, Tableau desktop. So the only person that really has access to this right now is me because it's on my desktop. But I could publish this to either Tableau Cloud or I could publish this to Tableau Public. Okay, so because at this point, like I said before, the only person that can see this right now is me. But remember my profile on Tableau Public that you saw all my dashboards? How did those dashboards get there? Well, basically, I built them in desktop, and all I did is I signed into my Tableau Public page. So right now, this is my company's server, which I won't publish this dashboard to that. But you can go down here and you can sign into your Tableau Public profile, and then that dashboard will publish to your Tableau Public profile. So then other people can see it, other people can use it, interact with it, things like that. Okay, so that's how that would work in terms of sharing and things like that. Okay. All right, so I know we're coming up on time because I think this ends around 7:50 PST, at least on my schedule. So, um, happy to open it up to my SE team if there's anything that I missed or anything that you wanted to add, or Jessica, any final thoughts or anything like that. I want to give space for you guys.
Just a quick note on the publishing. So you will see Dr. Davison in the chat as well. Anyone who is part of the challenge, if you are wanting to share your data, remember it is okay. However, they would like for you to get approval from NCAA first. So please keep in mind that before you publish, please receive approval from NCAA first. And then now we are open to, and then I'll just answer just in case anyone missed me answering in the chat. This recording, everyone who has RSVP'd and registered, you will automatically receive an email with the recording. Students, we have lots of expertise on the call. So if you are working on your challenge, this is a great time. Please, if you are not feeling comfortable, please, by all means, I will put my email address in the chat. If you're not comfortable asking it out loud, but please know that someone else could probably benefit from your question if you are being a little fearful or timid to ask the question. And please take advantage of this time. If there's anything you want to go back over, or any questions that you have, please take this opportunity.
So while we have a little bit of quiet time here, this is John Barnes. I'm just going to talk a little bit about what we're going to be covering next week. What we'll be going over, as Margot indicated, is we'll talk a little bit more about Tableau prep. One of the challenges that you will have is that sometimes the data that you are given is not complete, it's lacking, and you want to fill that in. Tableau prep is a great tool for taking that data and enhancing it with other sources if you have them available to you. So for those of you that are going to be working on this, that will certainly help you in your challenge. The other thing, we will go in a little bit more deeply with just how to handle data challenges in Tableau with things like calculations and other methods that will help you make your visualizations appear a little bit more, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? More professional, right? So anyway, that's what we're going to be doing next week. The week after that, we will be doing how to, as Margot pointed out, you can create really nice dashboards, but there's techniques to how you can do that. We'll go over how dashboards are created and how they can be made to interact with one another.
There's a question in the chat about if we can share some past use cases. Jessica, do you have insight into that?
Past use cases with Tableau, or are you meaning about the challenge?
Not sure. It just says, could you share some past use cases?
Aisha, you also have opportunity to come off of mute as well. So you can ask your question out loud, or if you are more comfortable, I put my email, or if you want to put it in the chat. If not, then I may be thinking about like past use cases with the Crossroads Classic Analytic Challenge. Dr. Davison or Dr. Bowen, do you want to jump in? Previous challenge solutions are owned by it. Okay.
Sure. I can jump in real quick. So the previous solutions that were submitted by students as part of the Crossroads Classic Challenge, the IP of those belonged to whoever the sponsor of the event was that year. So last year, for example, it was the Colts. All IP that was created by the students, it's actually owned by the Colts. So we don't even have them. We don't retain them. All of that gets turned over to whoever the sponsor is. And just like this year, all of that IP we at the Crossroads as a planning committee would not keep it. That goes to the NCAA, and it's up to them to give that out if they so choose. It belongs to them as part of the IP agreement. If you're looking for inspiration, though, I would actually suggest Tableau Public, kind of like it was mentioned earlier. I was just looking at, oh gosh, I think it was maybe Sam.
Yeah.
Spectacular. I only got through the first 100 of the 700, but it was very, very good.
Jason, maybe you could speak to the problem that was solved during the datathon using Tableau. I think that was an interesting use case. You know, where the teams were able to put together a solution in the 12 hours.
That's a wonderful one. I am trying to remember the details of that one. It was trucking logistics, if memory serves. So with the datathon that we just did last year, slightly different format for that. The students were able to use Tableau to visualize different types of data that was done through a logistics company. So they were working on optimizing how to solve challenges with moving, you know, all kinds of items from point A to point B. The big picture, though, with that was how well they were able to tell that story and use Tableau to emphasize it. So think of it almost like really interactive dynamic storytelling. And the teams that did really, really well were able to leverage Tableau, not just as they visualized, but they actually were able to manipulate it as they went through. So not only did they use dashboards, they also used, I believe, stories to help tell their story, which was really, really a dynamic tool. And it looks like Jesse put Sam's Viz's in the chat.
You know, what I really liked about today's presentation is, you know, the introduction to, you know, how to visualize your data based on proximity. And I think that's a major nugget for this competition this year, because I have to imagine the data set that you're using for the NCAA, there's going to be some location component that's going to have an effect on the final answer. I don't know what that is exactly, but I thought today's demonstration was a really great, you know, tool to help kind of tell that story when you get to that point in your project.
Well, one tip that I can give you guys for using a tool like Tableau is not only does it create visualizations for other people that you'll be able to use for the competition, it also is a great tool for you yourself to understand what's happening. So while you're going through and working on your predictive models, don't be afraid to use Tableau to help you understand what's going on as part of exploratory data analysis, not just saying, hey, we're going to use this to tell the story of our data to our judges at the end of the competition. So it's really a twofold tool that is incredibly, incredibly useful.
And if I may add really quick, just for encouragement for the people on the phone, you know, for those that might feel a little bit like overwhelmed, or like maybe this is your first time seeing something like this, I will say that I learned Tableau through YouTube. One of the many reasons why I joined this company was because the community is just so massive at Tableau. We have people that are fans, people that build dashboards for fun because it's so intuitive and they love using it. But another thing that comes with is there are a lot of Tableau influencers and Tableau content creators that make a lot of free training videos on YouTube. So if like that tooltip trick that I showed you, I learned that from Andy. Andy, the person that you saw on my Tableau public page, he had a 5-minute video on cool tips and tricks in 5 minutes at Tableau, and I did that. And so that's how I learned in college, was YouTube. And so, if you're thinking like, how am I going to learn this? How am I going to learn more? Definitely lean on us, look at these recordings, but also don't be afraid to reach out and look at those resources that are already available to you online and on YouTube. So it just depends on how you learn and how you grasp things. So.
We have 1 minute left. If there's anyone else who has a question, and don't forget, we're not gone. There is the session next week, which John Barnes already talked about what he'll be covering. In addition to, don't forget, you have my email. We are here to support you. We want to see you be successful, and we want you to have fun in this competition. And more than anything, as you know, we really, really just want to be there to support. And like Margot said, even if you are feeling overwhelmed, this is new, please, by all means, email me. That is what our academic programs does. We absolutely love feeding people the resources, so that way you can get going, and we can even possibly partner you with someone if you're needing a little bit more help and support. So thank you all very much. I will ensure that everyone gets this recording, and I thank all of the presenters for your time, people who are working in the chat and the question and answers, as well as Crossroads Classic Challenge team, as well as NCAA. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, guys.